Welcome to another best wildcard and free hit team video. I'm going to be showing you that towards the end, but the main focus at the beginning will be on the wildcard. And let me know what you think and which changes you would make. I encourage all the discussion in the comment section down below, and let's just get straight into it. With Arsenal having no more blanks until the end of the season, I don't think you need a second goalkeeper, but if your budget allows it and if you think it will benefit your team, then you can go for a second goalkeeper, whether it's Dubravka. I mean, Foster's not a bad second goalkeeper in himself, but he's mainly there for budget reasons. And you can also go for Robert Sanchez potentially and Jose Sa, but that will be a bit expensive having him and Ramsdale like I do in my own team. But Ramsdale should have plenty of doubles as well. Arsenal have a lot of games in hand and they could even have a double as early as Game Week 33, and he plays in Blank Gameweek 30, so there's a lot to like. And for me, Aaron Ramsdale is probably the best goalkeeper from now until the end of the season, but it's a bit difficult to say that when Arsenal are struggling to keep clean sheets and Ramsdale hasn't really been returning as he used to. But Arsenal are still looking good and they can definitely tighten up a bit defensively. So I think Ramsdale is one of the best, if not the best value for money goalkeeper right now in the game. Last week I had double Chelsea defence on the best wildcard team, and it's not like I suddenly think Chelsea defenders are bad all of a sudden. And Reece James is injured and he could miss Game Week 29. That is a possibility. But the reason why I've gone for no Chelsea defenders is because with this defence and this overall squad, you can navigate Game Week 30 without using the free hit. I think it would be a bit counterproductive if you wildcarded in 29 and then use the free hit in Game Week 30. Why not tackle both of them? You're going to have free transfers anyway heading into Game Week 31 and 32 to then kind of sort out some problems and then also improve on certain aspects, because you probably wouldn't want to have some of these defenders longer term. Even Kieran Tierney, arguably, also Roman Saiss and Doherty. After that period of Game Week 29 and 30, you can get rid of one of them and bring in Reece James once he's available, or Antonio Rudiger, etc. But I would go for double Liverpool defence. And if you don't have another means to get to a Chelsea defender, you could actually get rid of Robertson. Yes, he plays Watford in Game Week 31, but he also blanks in 30, and in 32-33 he faces Man City. So it's not like the fixtures are that great for Liverpool over the next 4 game weeks or so. And I think this is a really good defence, and you're really targeting Game Week 29, you're attacking it, and you have a good structure for Game Week 30. You have free Blank Game Week 30 defenders, but ultimately in Game Week 31 onwards you can bring in a Chelsea defender or two and then improve on this squad. Going through it one by one, I think Roman Saiss is probably the best Wolves defender, along with Conor Cody. Aït-Nouri would be my favourite, but the lack of minutes and the fact that he's not nailed really puts me off. Then looking at Trent, no brainer. I think he should be in pretty much every wildcard and every squad. Robertson is a really nice differential, and I think in Game Week 29 he can be one of the best performers and even a good captaincy option. Doherty right now for the next 2 game weeks is probably the best defender because he doesn't blank in 30. He's got a decent double in 29 and he's in insane form right now. He's definitely the best Spurs defender right now, but what I would say is that he's not entirely nailed, so don't be surprised if Emerson gets a game or two. And Kieran Tierney is pretty good just for the double in 29 and also not blanking in Game Week 30. Otherwise, I wouldn't have him on this wildcard draft, and I would much rather go for a Chelsea defender instead. On the wildcard, I would go for something like this in terms of the midfield, but Coutinho, if you look at the fixtures over the next 4 or 5, you could argue that someone like James Maddison would be even better. So let me know, would you go for Coutinho on the wildcard right now? He's kind of a short-term purchase. Around Game Week 31, you can get rid of him, but I do like him for the next 2, especially in Game Week 30, where in my opinion he's one of the best midfielders. But it might make more sense to go for James Maddison, and if he's fully fit and we have a kind of sense that Maddison will start, then I would be inclined to go for him. But in recent weeks, he's been in and out of the team. You know, he's been coming on for a few minutes and he still hasn't fully recovered from that injury. But if he does, I think Maddison will be even better. His fixture in Game Week 30 is superior to Coutinho's, and his long-term fixtures are also much better than Aston Villa. So let me know what you think of that. Salah is Salah. Even if you're going to get rid of him in Game Week 30 and bring him back in 31 or 32, do not go without him in Game Week 29. I think that would be the wrong choice. I know he hasn't got too many goals from open play since returning from the African Cup of Nations, but Salah is Salah, and he's still been performing well. He just hasn't been converting those chances recently. Rafinha is a bit of a tricky one because Leeds have some good fixtures. They showed some very good signs of promise in Jesse Marsch's first game, but Leeds are Leeds and they're still an unreliable team, and Rafinha just hasn't been delivering on the FPL front, so he's a debatable one as well. The ones that aren't so much up for debate are Kulusevski and Saka for me. Both at really good price points, they're affordable, they're enablers, and they both have doubles in 29 and they play in Game Week 30. And I think Kulusevski right now is one of the most informed wingers in the league. Saka as well, he's been very good across the whole season. So I think both of them are worthwhile. And if you want a bit of a different structure, you want a kind of budget midfielder around 5 million or under, then go for Jacob Ramsey. There's also Gordon, who could have a double in 31 or 32, and he has that double in 29. He's the only Everton player right now that I'd go for. But let me know what you think of this midfield. I think Rafinha and Coutinho are up for debate, especially Coutinho because of those long-term fixtures. But his form is undeniably very good since he has joined Aston Villa, and Aston Villa are probably going to be in a rush to sign him in the summer. But I think I'd be more confident about the rest, especially Salah, Kulusevski and Saka. But the other two are mainly there for Game Week 30 and the fact that they don't blank in that game week. Maddison could be a really good one as well. Forwards are so hit and miss this season, but I think Kane and Broja are still quite, I'd say, nailed on most wildcards, whether it's Game Week 27, 28, 29 or even 26. But looking at Ivan Toney, he's mainly there because he has that fixture in Game Week 30, which is pretty decent from an offensive point of view. And his fixture in 29 is also pretty good. You could arguably start him, but I think this is also another one that's kind of up for debate and you can go for another striker instead, but it also depends on your budget. So this team overall would cost 104.2 million. So some of you might not be able to afford certain things, but then some of you might have even more money and you could actually go to an Ollie Watkins or a Danny Ings, although I'm not a big fan of either of them right now, instead of Ivan Toney, and you could go for a better second goalkeeper than Ben Foster. I don't think Kane is up for debate on the wild card. If you have Son in your normal team and you need to get rid of him to get Harry Kane in your normal team with free transfers or hits, that's where it becomes a bit trickier. And I think for a -8 or a -12, that would be a bit too excessive, and I'm still thinking of doing it myself. But Harry Kane, for me, is one of the first names on the team sheet on a wildcard right now. His form is sensational. I talked about him in my transfer tips video. Check it out if you want to see all the stats, the key stats for Harry Kane, the other kind of main Spurs players like Doherty and Kulusevski. I think that would be very insightful for you. Harry Kane, for me, is probably a must-have on the wildcard, but if you don't have him normally, Heung-min Son should, be quite similarly matched until the end of the season compared to Harry Kane. It's just if you compare Kulusevski to someone like Jimenez, which also might form part of the equation for you, that's where you'd probably favour the Kane and Kulusevski duo. But for me, Harry Kane, despite the fact that Son offers better value for money, I think right now, because of your team structure, the lack of forward options, and the plethora of midfielders you have to choose from, I think it makes more sense to go for Harry Kane than Heung-min Son. And I think your team is quite sorted in the long term in terms of how everything is put in place. Ivan Toney is up for debate, so I encourage all of you to kind of leave your suggestions down in the comment section below. But I think the main part of this wildcard is to navigate Game Week 30 without needing to use the free hit. So you could easily get to 10 or 11 players without making massive hits or anything like that on the wildcard, and you can focus on the rest of the season. You've got the basis. Players like Coutinho, Rafinha, Toney could all be offloaded. The same goes for one of the defenders in the weeks to come to get those Chelsea players who have great long-term fixtures, Leicester as well. And Broja, I think, is just a great enabler. I would definitely go for him no matter what. And despite the fact that postponements aren't really a thing at the moment compared to, let's say, around winter, it's still important to have a bit of squad depth. I'd rather have Broja than Gelhardt, so that makes sense. Yes, the Serbian hasn't been in great form recently, but he's still a great enabler and he's been very good for his price. So that would be my team overall, my squad. Let me show you how it would line up, who I would captain, although that's definitely up for debate right now, and you can also let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. There are no surprises about the goalkeeper. Ramsdale would be in. The double isn't that great, but Arsenal are boosted by the news that Jamie Vardy's missing that game. He always seems to score against the Gunners, so I would go for Aaron Ramsdale in goal, Foster as the second goalkeeper. Trent and Robertson are obviously starting. They could even be captaincy options here this week. Tierney's also there. I'm not really a big fan of double Arsenal defence this week, but the fact that they play in Game Week 30, have the double here, I think it's worth going for both of them on the wild card. And then Doherty, I think he's probably one of the best options this week in terms of the defence, probably even better than Tierney right now. But you never know, Emerson could steal a game there in the 2 games, you never know, or in Game Week 30. That's the kind of problem with Doherty, but he should be the first choice right back or right wing back, and he's been very good recently. Saka, Rafinha and Kulusevski all complete the midfield with Salah, of course, who is the captain, but there is a debate to be had whether you go for Harry Kane or maybe a Trent or Robertson. The fact that Liverpool play Arsenal and I think they could concede in that game, I would veer more towards Salah, who has been underperforming recently, but he's on penalties. He's got still some really good underlying numbers, and if he can convert those chances, he's just going to go crazy as he tends to do. And his stats across the season in terms of goal output, the underlying numbers are all absolutely crazy. So I would go for Salah, although Kane does give him a good run for his money. I think Saka could be very good for this double. He's in great form, and Arsenal are relying a lot on him and Odegaard recently. Rafinha isn't too bad. I'm not a big fan of him right now, and you could arguably start Tony or Coutinho over the Brazilian. And then Kulusevski, one of the most informed players right now. And it's a bit of a shame that you can't have Son in this team. If you have enough squad value and you can afford Son in for Kulusevski, then I would actually rather go for Son, but that's not going to be too common, and I think you would have to downgrade one or two other players in order to achieve that. And I would go for Broja, but once again, you could go for Tony instead, and I think Saiss would be my third sub. Even though Everton are poor, I wouldn't be too surprised if the Evertonians score against Wolves in that game. Let me know what you think in terms of the captaincy as well. Are you going for Salah or Harry Kane? And I think this team looks pretty good, although it's not perfect, and in the long term some of these players probably aren't too great, but the best thing about this wildcard is that it enables you to navigate Game Week 30 without using the free hit, and you're very well set up. So let's wait and see what happens with the Maddison news, and if it looks like he's going to start against Arsenal, I think I would actually rather go for him over Rafinha or Coutinho. If I were free hitting this week, I would go for something like this. Maybe a big problem of this free hit team is that you're just kind of chasing the doublers, but the doubles aren't that great. So going for double Newcastle when they face Chelsea and Everton away, maybe not the wisest choice, but I'll definitely go for Fraser. Share is a bit of a luxury one. Maybe you could go for someone else, but this team would cost 104.1 million, so 0.1 million less than the best wildcard team I just showed you. And in terms of my budget, I'm not able to afford any better in certain areas like Fabian Schär, but some of you may be able to. So a Chelsea defender instead of Schär may be a better option, although I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle scored in that game. And Aaron Ramsdale is still in goal, but instead of double Arsenal defence like the wild card, I would go for double Liverpool defence, yet again, Doherty, Schär and Ramsdale, and kind of balance it out a little bit more. The midfield, Saka is still there, but I would go for Heung-min Son over Kulusevski. I still would prefer the South Korean. Salah's always going to be in it, same with Harry Kane. And I've gone for Lacazette. He's been in really good form. He just hasn't been having his shooting boots on. His finishing is quite atrocious, but he tends to pop up in these big games, so I wouldn't be surprised if he scored against Leicester or Liverpool. And you're mainly relying on the assist threat. He makes those around him even better, so he's instrumental in how Arsenal play. And the bench speaks for itself. If you have enough money, you can always upgrade Gelhardt to Broja, who would be my preference, but that doesn't really matter. On the free hit, you want to prioritise your starting 11, so let me know what would you change. I think Schär is the biggest question mark in this team, and one that I'm not too confident about, but because he's only 4.3 million and he has a double, I think he's not the worst option in the world, but I can understand why some of you may be put off by that. I think the rest I'd be very happy with, and I wouldn't change too much. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. It really helps out with the algorithm, so it'd be much appreciated. All the very best of luck for the rest of Game Week 28 and 29. And just as a disclaimer, these videos, the last two, so the best wildcard team and free hit team, as well as the transfer tips videos, they have been recorded before the games have concluded in Game Week 28. So that's why the total points and stuff like that, the overall rank on the left hand side of your screen, aren't updated fully yet. So let's wait and see what happens in the rest of those games. And good luck for Game Week 29. Enjoy the football. That's the most important thing. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. We're almost at 1,000 followers on both of those platforms, so that'd be much appreciated. You can join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. The same goes for the FPL League. And also check out my UCL Fantasy content. There are playlists for FPL and UCL Fantasy, so you can always stay tuned by hitting the notification bell. And you can become a channel member and a Patreon by signing up. Check out the perks in the description below, and if you sign up right now, there's a special offer. You can actually get exclusive early access to all my videos, even if you sign up as a differential or captain, and that will last for another month or two. So be sure to check it out, and take care, enjoy the football again, and I'll see you next time.